Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Pricing Guys. Michael here with you, and
Avy, good to be here.
yeah,
Thank you for the good segue.
I was trying to set you up, as like an old
There's a
like
bit
a
of a
singer.
stutter step there.
That's right. So today, what we wanted to do is we wanted to talk about something that we've been seeing a lot of in the news lately, with government committees and a lot of people talking about pricing transparency and what that actually means. And I wanted to start this one off with a little bit of a story.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple weeks ago, went to Arizona and was going to a baseball tournament. So we were looking at renting an Airbnb, and there's a group of us, the dads, and we're trying to compare these prices of where to stay. And we're looking, oh, this one's got a pool, this one's got like a little putting green in the backyard. And go on Airbnb and we see these kind of prices of like, $400, $350, $450, and there's a lot of variance in the prices.
Yeah.
And so we start talking and debating about these, and I didn't realize, and I'm not a frequent Airbnb user, it's actually my first time. And so I go in there and I'm like, oh, well, this one, like, it's way better because it's cheaper. But if you actually click in and select the dates you want, after it shows you like the $350 a night, but then there's the add cleaning fees or like all these different fees. And what I didn't realize is like the fees and the cleaning, like all these different fees vary a lot between the actual
Each of the providers?
between the different houses. And what ended up happening was like the one that was like looking the cheapest, it actually ends up being the most expensive. And it was crazy because this got me thinking about like, are these people like doing this on purpose? So I went down a bit of a couple Reddit rabbit holes, and I realized that there's this whole like theory and like how these guys are kind of setting it up their Airbnb, where making it cheaper when you see kind of the regular price, but jacking and playing with the fees so that at the end of the day, they're still kind of collecting what they need to collect. And it's not actually cheaper, but the perception is that you're getting a much better rate because what you see at the very beginning is lower than the next comparable ones in the area. So it's very non-transparent.
Yeah, and as you're going through that experience, I'm like putting myself into your shoes, right? Because you're either one of two places. You're at, I'm going to go through with this transaction, but I feel taken advantage of because I had clicked into this, I was expecting to pay this, and now you've kind of scammed me and I feel terrible. Or if you're got much more kind of grit to you, you're like, okay, I'm going to take a college degree on Airbnb now, and I'm going to like click down on each one of these.
100%. That was me.
My full competitive assessment. Yep. And I mean, that too.
I won't lie, I had a bit of a spreadsheet going.
Yeah, but after that, you're like, I've made this my whole job, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's crazy too, because you're in a spot that either you start giving advice to the other dads on how they should book their Airbnbs and what to look for, or you're like, why do you have to make this transaction so hard for me that, you know what, I'm going to just call the Marriott next time, right? And forget this. It's not even worth it to transact this way because it has so much lack of transparency due to it.
Well, and it's even more interesting because you look at some of those more historical industries like airlines and hotels, and they've been pushed to transparency for years now. I remember the days when the airlines were showing you the fee, and it would like double or triple by the time you kind of got to the very end. Now they found different ways with like baggage fees and things like that, but I think that they've had a big push towards transparency. They've been able to kind of finesse their product a little bit to get around that, but I don't really know what all of the pushback is against price transparency. I think it's a really good thing, especially on the B2B side, but I think also on the B2C side, but also on the B2B side. That's one thing that really often comes up when we're dealing with clients. It's explaining to a customer, where do you get that price? Where does that price come from? And if you can't explain it, you're in trouble.
I think where B2Bs are somewhat more protected is that they'll set up a PO, they'll put, here's what the price is that we're supposed to be charged. And if they're getting charged more than it, the system just like kicks it, right? And it'll say, we've got a price discrepancy on this. So it's a little bit nicer, right? In terms of where it's set up, what it's looking at. But, often where we're hearing the noise is to your point, right? The B2C side or B2B, where it comes up is when you're presenting your offer to a customer, and then you've got like a lot of times companies want to position it as a low out of pocket, but then, hey, if you want this service on top of it, it's Bing. If you want this service on top, it's this. And bang, 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 bang. And before you know it, there's a lot of complexity in terms of dealing with the customer.
I think one thing you have to keep in mind, though, when you're setting up a pricing strategy, and we talk to clients about this all the time, is you have to make sure that it's a good experience, and you can't give the perception of being nickeled and dimed. I get that when you're flying Spirit and you're getting like a $50 fare, they're going to charge you for the bag, and they're going to charge you to get on the plane first, and they're going to charge you. So your $50 fare might be $200 at the end of the day, and it might be kind of 3 or 4 times the cost of what you expected. But when you're shelling out tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars for, let's say, like a big software implementation or something like that, nickel and diming and trying to pick up pennies everywhere, it's just a bad experience from a customer standpoint, and it really goes against the brand. And you really have to think about as you have these add-ons and you're doing this stuff, what is the experience that person's going to have with the brand that you have?
Yeah, I think where it comes back to me, especially when I look at the B2B side, it's looking at the customer segment. So, we'll have some customers that we know are very transactional with us. They only come to us when they can't find it elsewhere. They only come to us when they're price shopping us. We know they're very value-based customers. Yes, 100%. We know their shopping price. Yeah, we present, here's kind of our bare bones, stripped out price. And if you want any of these incremental elements to our, you want it to be able to get it at this time in your warehouse. You want this kind of service. You want us to guarantee that there's this of a defect rate. Yeah, then the charges start lopping on, and you can decide where you want to sit on the totem pole. But if you're dealing with another customer segment, to your point, that this is a tenured customer with us, convenience is critical for them. These service elements are critical for them. When we come across and we show them our offer, yeah, it's going to be an all-in price that we're providing them. And we're also going to be talking about the services, like things that talk to that customer.
But I think you hit on a great point where it's less about the price, but it's knowing who the customer is and what offer you should be putting in front of them, because it is not a one-size-fits-all exercise. Especially in B2B, you need to have an understanding of what they value and what that offer is that you need to put in front of them.
Yeah, like 100%. I'm going back to like your Airbnb example. Like you're searching a whole bunch of people. It's probably going to be a pretty large transaction size that you guys are going to be throwing through on this thing. It should necessitate a little bit of a different purchase experience, given that we know the size of the transaction, how you're looking at it, and enhancing the value for that customer, doing the work for that customer, because we know there's a little bit larger size of prize. This isn't necessarily someone who's, coming in on Friday, leaving on Saturday, and it's more of just one night, I'm looking for the cheapest thing, and yeah, $70 a night. It doesn't matter if I'm off $20 one way or another on this, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think, to me at least, a guy who stays in hotels pretty frequently, I think it was all about that experience. And by the way, I got to give a shout out to our hosts in Glendale. So if you're ever looking for a place in Glendale, Arizona, drop me a line and let me know. I can send you to a great host. It was a great spot, and they made the transaction and everything kind of painless. But I felt like the Airbnb felt like a little bit like deceptive, to be honest.
It's funny you say that. So I remember this was actually a night we had gone out. I got back home. I had the munchies after we had gone out. And I was
What time was this? Like 2 a.m.?
It was probably 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So I might not have been at my top form in terms of kind of comparing prices and everything. I did lock in that I wanted...
Very non-price sensitive at the time.
Very non-price sensitive. I did lock in on... I remember there were these chicken sandwiches I was going to get. And what they had was, hey, if you sign up for this Uber One promotion, here's how much it knocks off the price. So I wasn't thinking very much at the time.
Okay. And like Uber One, that's like the membership, right?
Yeah, the membership.
Sure.
So sign up for it, bang, got a great price on those chicken sandwiches. And then later on, a couple weeks down, I saw my credit card got hit. And I was like, that's weird because I don't remember riding an Uber that day. So then, I went back and I was looking at it and the charges on it, and it was like, ooh, this is for Uber One. I'm like, what is this Uber One?
So you don't even remember signing up for it, huh?
I didn't even remember, but then I, as I was kind of nickeling and getting back my way, it was related to
those sandwiches weren't really that cheap.
Well, they weren't. I mean, over the long term, they wouldn't be that cheap. But what it kind of triggered me immediately, because I think the charge, it wasn't like substantial. It was $1.50 or something like that. And that's what kind of triggered me, because I'm like, there's no way I took an Uber for $1.50 or ordered something for $1.50. So I'm like, there must be some kind of error or something that's wrong. And that's what kind of triggered me on it. But I was like, I'm not right away it kind of triggered me, and I went into my Uber app and I canceled it, which it was easy enough. I had to Google on how to cancel it and which buttons to click, and maybe it took me like 7 minutes, which was a little bit of didn't get me happy or anything like that. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, I kind of bought something that I didn't really understand what I was buying and the benefits associated with that and the costs associated with that. So as I was going through it, I was like, it's a little bit of a weird way to market it. And how I would more so is think about, and it comes back to that customer segmentation, right? Looking at how someone transacts on, like, you've got all the data on how someone transacts over Uber. How do you bring them a more customized sales experience to show them, hey, you've done this over the last bit. Had you been a member of Uber One, this is how much you would have saved. Now, and on top of that, knowing that you're looking at this offer, why don't you do this? And here's kind of your savings that we can bring to you. This is like a great opportunity. But like helping, making it a bit more of a value sell than kind of, click on this, save this, here you go. And I hope you don't catch my $1.50.
Yeah, so let me ask you, how did you catch that $1.50? Like, are you like the guy who like reads every line of his credit card statement?
No, I think what happened is when Uber charges you, it sends you an email. So I was trying to check, like, what is this? That's the only way it triggered me on what this was. And then I'm like,
now, was that the first $1.50 or
it was the first $1.50? Because then I'm like, I can't link this to anything, and that's the only way. That because I'm like, something has to be wrong here. I'm like, oh man, I got to go check this. And then it necessitated all that work. But that was the only thing that triggered me on it. And then I was thinking about, there was a better way to do this, right? And there's probably certain segments of customers that this totally may make sense for.
Well, imagine how many people hit that $1.50, never look at it, and then $1.50. Is it a week $1.50?
No, it was actually, it's not that bad. Like, it was a month, $1.50, like $18 a year or something like that. It's not that bad, but I think for me, it was more, I wasn't happy about how that charge came through. Bad experience with
the brand.
Right? Yeah, but I think the thing for me, it's not egregious. It probably has a lot of financial value to their customers. It's just the segments of customers that you push this and how you push it through to your customers, right? And the segments of customers that, it might be a bit more, let's not push that offer to these customers right away. Let's go and get these ones where there's a high potential, we can bring high value to them, and then how do we work our way through? Just a much more, targeting your offer at certain segments. And as we're getting into other segments that maybe it wouldn't be as much value, what does that offer morph into? How do we think about it? Or maybe we don't even sell it.
But I think it comes back to, if you're going to do that, you need to have more transparency, right? Like, and this is the thing about price transparency, is that these practices that we've kind of talked about today, it's almost as if you're trying to be very non-transparent with the price. You're trying to, at least the experiences we have, they tried to kind of pull one over you, right? Pull the wool over your eyes. But as people kind of push towards transparency, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because that price transparency, you can use it in a very, very strategic way, exactly like you said, for those different segments. But it's just a different way of thinking about it, as opposed to trying to almost kind of sneak one past the goalpost, so to speak.
How I see it is, to your point, pricing transparency is being transparent about the value you're providing, right?
Yeah.
And you're communicating that value in a clear way, letting customers trade off on it. So it shouldn't be seen as a bad thing or something to be scared of. And if you're scared of it, honestly,
It's an opportunity.
Yeah,
It's an opportunity more than
you
anything.
probably don't have your value proposition well defined enough.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week. Again, if you guys have any topics or areas that you want us to delve into, go to revenueml.com. We've got a button there. Click in. We review it every week, and we'd love to tackle what you guys are thinking of.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.